Like we were doing yesterday, some flat padding. Ran some practice speeds here this morning to get the machine all set up. So yesterday we were running on about 21 volts and about 400 inches a minute. I had a little bit of a high of wire speed. When you switch to out of positions, you need to take that wire speed, you need to turn it down, okay? You can still leave the same amount of voltage, but I'm actually running on about 310 or so inches a minute. So I went from like 400 down to 310. And the reason being, if you try to weld and out of position with that same amount of wire speed, what's gonna happen is you're going to get a lot of sagging, remember. So you're going from the flat position to the horizontal position, you're working out of position, you're working against gravity. So when you work against gravity, you start to get that puddle that starts to sag, okay? So if we take our wire speed and we turn our wire speed down, so we turned it down about 90 inches a minute, we're gonna be able to establish a better puddle without the puddle sagging. So the first puddle, you want to make sure that you're up about at least 1/8 or so of an inch above the metal, because you're going to get some drooping that goes on. So the first pass, you want to weld a little bit faster, okay, and not really spend much time there. So your heat affected zone when you're welding with a couple of passes underneath you is a little bit bigger. But when you start that original pass down here at the bottom, you have no heat affected zone down here. So all of that heat is right up here on top. There's nowhere for this weld to sit on, and so it's just going to sag below the plate itself. So this first pass, you want to make sure that you don't want to do any type of manipulation or anything. You just want to get a nice small bead across there just to get yourself a starting point, okay? And that's what we did here. And then I ran a couple more passes to make sure the machine was set, okay? So when you're welding, so in the flat position, we're at a 90-degree work angle and about a 20-degree travel angle, okay? When we start to work in the flat position, we're gonna take that work angle and we're gonna drop it. So we want to be pointing up, okay? Now, we're not gonna be pointing up so much that we're going to get undercut on the bottom. It's just a slight angle pointing up 5 to 10 degrees or so. And you can do a bunch of different manipulation techniques. Now, first, you can just drag right across that plate, okay? The second thing you can do, I wouldn't recommend like circles necessarily, but it would be a little bit better, for me it is, to run almost like a whipping technique, okay? So you can run a whipping technique, or another technique that is a little bit effective is running like almost like a 7. So you're going to be wide up here at the top, and then you're just going to go down. Wide at the top, and then just going to go straight down. So you're going to keep like your heat towards the top instead of the bottom of the weld. You could also do like half moons, except those half moons, you want to kind of angle it. You want to angle it to the front. Almost similar to that like 7 type of look, you want to just angle it right to that front. And if you spend too much time on that weld, your puddle's going to sag. So when your puddle sags, then you're going to get all this bad parts in your weld. Now I think that I have some old shielding gas here, because I was pulling some porosity earlier, when I was welding. So we're going to make do with the shielding gas that we have today, and then we're going to make sure everything goes well. So I can only wear one glove today, so I'll be covering up this hand with the other glove, but normally, obviously, you want to have all of your PPE on, but considering the fact that I can't get a glove on this hand is going to be a little bit difficult. Now, this morning, it's been about an hour or so since I welded on this, so I just have this piece of scrap material here. I'm just gonna, fire up my my MIG gun on. That way I can get some of that shielding gas that flows back through that line. Remember, every time you perform a weld, you want to get in the habit of clipping that wire off, okay? Okay, so remember, we want to have about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch stick out. Get rid of that ball on the end. We're going to take our 90-degree work angle. We're going to drop it about 5 degrees or so. Okay, and we're going to have, you know, still our 20-25 degree work angle. So this first weld we're going to be dragging, okay? And then, you know, we could probably come back over here on the front side and then maybe do a little bit of a pushing technique. But this first weld is going to be a dragging technique, and we're going to show you how to do it. Okay. First thing, you know, I do have my clamps here, my steady clamps to you know, rest on. Remember, it doesn't make you a bad welder, because first thing about welding is getting comfortable. So, got my clamps here to rest my elbow on. That way I can drag nice and easy across that plate. Okay. Now, another thing before we go, I am actually pulling this to me. Okay, it's still dragging technique, but I'm pulling this to me. Okay. What I could also do is I could turn this, or I could adjust this, turn my conductor tube, and I can pull away from me. But for me, it's more comfortable when welding in the horizontal position to come to me than it is to push away from me. For you, it might be easier to push away. That's what you guys are gonna have to figure out as you weld, okay? So, we're gonna lay our first pass here. Get comfortable. Now we're just gonna do almost like a little whipping technique. Okay. Now, it's always nice getting the habit, like I said. Wire brush this, try to get it nice and clean. Remember, if you grind your metal, you know, you're going to have a better surface to weld on. You're going to get a little bit less spatter. We're not really getting too much spatter on here, but so that was the like a whipping technique. Let's see if we can show you guys kind of what that looks like here. All right, so now next pass, we're just going to do like a 7, okay? I like to call it like a 7, that's about the motion that you're using. And you're gonna notice that it's very similar to the whipping technique, just a little bit more of manipulation. Okay. Clip our end. I caught a porosity pocket here. So we have a little bit more of a wider puddle. You can see where we caught that porosity there. Now, normally in the real world, we would take this right here. We would grind it out and prepare again. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to leave that there, and we're just going to cover it right up. Okay, so with the 7 or the upside down J, whatever people call it, you know, you can call it a bunch of different things. Okay, so the 7 or the upside down J is a little bit of a bigger puddle. okay? So what we're gonna do on this next pass, we're just gonna do a dragging technique. We're not gonna do any type of manipulation. We're just gonna drag it right across there. Hopefully we can weld over top of this piece of porosity here and not have any more of that, okay? Just gonna start up here. Just trying to get rid of that little gas pocket, or that bad gas pocket rather. Okay, the dragging technique doesn't really give any lines in this, so you just have essentially what it would look like. It would almost look like a flux core type of weld. I really think the whipping technique is the best in this situation, welding in the horizontal position. But that's not up to me to decide, that's up to you to decide what's going to be best for you, okay? Now we're going to do a little bit of a pushing technique, okay? So I'm still going to be bringing this to me, okay? Except I'm going to take my angle from the dragging, I'm going to angle it, and I'm going to bring it towards me, okay? So we're going to go from the dragging technique into the pushing technique, okay? I'm going to move over a little bit because I'm going to be throwing spatter all this way, and if I stay here, it's all going to be coming right to my face, okay? So we're going to start here. Then you want to stay in the leading edge of that puddle. Okay, now if you notice, I kind of jumped above this a little bit just to get rid of, just to move on top of that porosity weld, but this is still the same thing. You just want to make sure you're staying in the leading edge of this puddle here, and when you pull out of that puddle, what's going to happen is your weld's going to shrink, it's going to get smaller, and then it's going to be inconsistent, okay? So that's just like a little bit of a whipping technique there, okay? You can try to manipulate this like in circles. Sometimes it's not going to be as good. You're going to get a little bit of a droop, but it's still possible, just not necessarily recommended from me. But if it's something that that you can do, that you're comfortable doing, you know, more power to you. So we're going to perform a weld now with using the circular technique. Okay, and I want to run this counterclockwise. So if I'm doing a pushing technique, I want to run this counterclockwise. So my circle wants to be counterclockwise, okay? Fire up. Okay, let's show you guys a little bit here. Okay, here's the gas pocket that we got here, a little bit of porosity. Like I said, you would normally grind that out, but this is just some flat padding, or horizontal padding here, so it's not going to be tested or anything. Okay, later video we can go through and show you how to repair that, okay? Now, one thing that you want to make sure of when you're welding, you know, we're only going for 3 inches here, okay? So 3 inches, you're not gonna get much drop if you're going away from you or towards you. But say if we turn this on its side and we're welding, you know, double that 6 inches, what's gonna happen is just like welding horizontal with stick, okay? You're going to start to drop that elbow, and you know, your puddle is going to start to go down, okay? So you want to make sure if you're welding away from you, try and raise that elbow as you are working your way across that metal, okay? So, you know, even if you just sit here and do this a few times, just to get that motion to try and raise that elbow as you're going. Now, if you're pointed to you, a little bit different because you can keep that kind of at its same elevation, okay? But if you run into the situation to where that drops down, it's okay. Just like we showed you with that 7018, that stick welding, just take a speed square, take a piece of soapstone, draw a line, follow on that line, and then you can fill in that padding on the end, okay? Landscaping is okay to happen. Just because, you know, you have a gap there doesn't mean that it's, you know, you have to start over, you have to cut it out or anything. You know, you can just do a little bit of, we call it landscaping, fix the stuff, and then continue work, okay? So we're gonna lay another bead here, just to give you guys a little bit more demonstration. Okay, I'm gonna move back to a dragging technique. And if you have welding caps, you know, this is where it's recommended that you wear them. I think I probably burnt my head I think I probably had about half a dozen of these landed on my head, and you know, it does burn. So, you know, you have a welding cap, this is where you wanna put it on and wear it. Okay, fire up here. Now with MIG welding, you have a little bit less heat input than stick welding. So when you get to the edge here, you're still going to be burning up on the edge of your plate. Just make sure you hold that on this edge a little bit. Wrap around that edge and hold it there a little bit. That way it builds up the end of your welds here. Okay, let's show you this. Here's where I'm talking. Okay. Not sure what's going on with this camera, but I think it's starting to turn to crap. I think I'm gonna have to get a new one. Okay, so we're gonna make a weld that goes from we're gonna do a dragging technique from this side, and we're going to work our way across. Now, for me, I'm more comfortable pulling it to me, but you can also push it away from me. Okay. So this will be our weld that goes away from us. Okay, you can still get the same appearance. Okay, that was really uncomfortable for me. You know, I'm more comfortable pulling it to me, but you might be more comfortable pushing it away from you. So that's what you need to figure out. All right, so next lesson we're going to take this. We're going to move on to a fillet weld. Okay, we're going to create fillet welds in the flat position, make multi-pass welds with this using gas metal arc welding. Okay.